Remember back in grade 8 when I told you you had to use benchmarks to estimate the square root of something? So you were like, oh, what's the square root of 18? Well, it's close to the square root of 16, and you put it on a number line. Dun, dun, dun. Those days are back. Yay! Now we're using benchmarks to figure out the logarithm of a particular number. So let's get started. 2 is the base. 2 to the power of what equals 10? Well, I know that 2 to the power of 3 equals 8, and I know that 2 to the power of 4 equals 16. If I make myself a number line with 8 and 16 here, and 2 to the power of 3 here, and 2 to the power of 4 here, then I can chunk these up a little bit and figure it out. So the number of spaces between 8 and 16 is 8. So I can go, let's see, whoops, let's change that again. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's my little spaces. And I know that these are 9, 10, 11, 12. We'll put 12 in the middle there. So there's 3 ticks on either side. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is 2 to the power of 3.5 approximately. Approximately. It's not perfect, but it's approximate. And now we need to know where 10 sits. So 10 sits here, and that's at about 2 to the power of 3.25. We could try and get really specific. So let's see if it works. I'll use my calculator, and I will go 2 to the power of 3.25. And it turns out that it is 9.5, which is pretty close. We could try to narrow it down a little bit more from there, but they usually say to the nearest tenth. So if I've kind of used this to figure out that it's 3.25, but it didn't quite make it there, it was only 9.5 when I evaluated it, so I could probably take it up to 2 to the power of 3.3. And then I could evaluate that. And in fact, it is much closer, and that's probably about as close as you're going to get unless you want to get really, really fussy. So we use our benchmarks, the ones we know, on the ends. We slice up the data in between. We figure out where the number we're trying to estimate fits, and then we use that guide to kind of use the slide rule sort of concept to figure out approximately where the exponent would sit. Then we can check in our calculators and see if we were correct. But when they say to estimate using benchmarks, they're not asking you to just pick up your calculator and throw in some numbers until you come up with something reasonable. They're actually asking you to lay this out and figure it out without your calculator, and then use your calculator to check your answers.